been confirmed dead, while 40 other fatalities are up for validation. Paeng has displaced 912,000 individuals across the country. 63 people remain missing, while 69 others have been injured due to the storm. A separate monitoring by the Agriculture Department shows that Paeng's damage to agriculture has reached 285 million pesos as of Sunday, that's October 30th. The DA says damage and losses have been reported in Mimaropa, Bicol, Western Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, and Soc-Sargen. Tropical Storm Paeng affected over 8,600 farmers and fishers across these regions. The volume of production loss is at 11,700 metric tons, and there were 13,400 hectares of agricultural areas affected. The agency reports that their regional field offices are currently conducting damage assessment in the agri-fisheries sector. They add that mobile Kadiwa centers are already being set up in areas affected by Paeng to stabilize prices and supply of commodities. Now, the NDRRMC calls on President Bongbong Marcos to declare a state of national calamity. This following the onslaught of Tropical Storm Paeng. The NDRRMC says it has drafted a resolution recommending a state of national calamity. Its declaration would allow access to calamity response funds and implement a price freeze on basic goods. Senate President Juan Zubiri likewise echoed the call for the declaration of a state of calamity nationwide. Zubiri believes the president is receptive to the NDRRMC's recommendation and is only waiting to review the resolution before making a decision. So far, 3 areas have declared a state of calamity. Among them is the entire Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, which experienced widespread flooding and landslides last Friday. The province of Albay and the municipality of Pigcawayan in Cotabato have also been placed under a state of calamity. Now, to update us on the numbers and whether or not we should expect the president to greenlight the declaration of a national state of calamity, NDRRMC spokesperson Asa Grafi Alejandro joins us. Asa Grafi, good day. Thank you for joining us again. The NDRRMC pushing for a national state of calamity. Have you received feedback yet from Malacanang? How likely is it for that recommendation to be given the green light?
Yes, sir. As of this morning, we have not received any feedback, but we will be coordinating with his office because sabi nga niya, the president said that he will study the matter and we will be providing the necessary data that is needed to complete the study. But so far, because of that, we have recommended such because 16 out of 17 regions were forecasted to be heavily affected by this typhoon. And so far, data shows that we already have 1.9 million persons affected, or close to 591,000 families from 17 regions, 67 provinces, 614 municipalities or cities, and 5,108 barangays as affected. So with that po, we will be closely coordinating with the Office of the President on this, and we leave it to his wisdom, best judgment, if he will declare a nationwide state of calamity or just select regions on that. But please take note that the state of calamity declaration has an advantage also because it will allow unaffected local government units or areas to extend assistance to those areas that are affected.
Okay.
So that is one advantage of having a state of calamity.
Okay, given that, what are the other salient points under that recommendation? I mean, like what you did mention, that would somehow boost funding requirements here, especially for the affected areas. But that also puts into question, do you still have enough funding under the agency to actually respond to the devastation caused by Paeng? I mean, we're already at the latter end of the year. Do you still have enough funding for that?
Yes, as far as funding is concerned, based on the balances that we have for the National Calamity Fund, we have a balance of almost 6 billion. That is from the National Fund, but our LGUs also have similar funds based on their on their balances of their budget. And a state of calamity will trigger or will make it more efficient, faster to extend assistance or use these funds. But please take note that even if this will hasten or fast track procurement of relief supplies, we are still governed by the procurement law, which is 9184, Republic Act 9184. So there will be safeguards that all of us will still follow.
Okay, like what you mentioned, you still have a balance of 6 billion pesos for the remainder of the year. Would that be enough? Should there be more typhoons coming in for the remainder of the year, especially perhaps, hopefully not, but as devastating or as big as Paeng?
Yes, we still have 2 months to go. Based on Pag-asa's forecast, we will expect, or we will be expecting at least four more typhoons to enter. And please remember that we have 4 typhoons that affected the country, especially northern Luzon, and 1 earthquake. And rehabilitation programs or projects will still have to be implemented. But please also that there is mechanism to augment the calamity fund. Just like what the previous years have been done, the President has the authority to augment the National Calamity Fund from other sources when it is needed po.
Do you think that would be needed for this year?
I cannot say that at this point because we still need to conduct our post-disaster needs assessment, and then the rapid assessment is ongoing, but the post-damage assessment will still follow, wherein it is a tedious process, wherein we will be recommending or checking which ones are priority, which project or infrastructure or programs will be prioritized and will be funded based on the money that is available.
Okay, like what you mentioned, damage assessment continuing here. The numbers continue to come in. Updated number of casualties here at 98. Do you expect that to increase, especially as well, since we still have a number of missing people and unaccounted for that?
Yes, unfortunately, we will see an increase. We will still see an increase because we still have a report of 63 missing persons, 25 of which have been confirmed as missing, and we are validating additional 38. So that accounts for 63. So we expect an increase in the number of dead. Hopefully, we are praying that this will no longer increase. In fact, we are praying that this will be reduced now. But of course, data shows otherwise.
Now, which, according to your at least initial assessment, areas are most devastated, beside, of course, the Bangsamoro region?
Yes, we're looking at Panay Island, and then, of course, Region 4A, especially in Laguna and Cavite area. And then we are also assessing the effects in Region 8 and Region 5.
Now, Ashik, warnings have been made days ahead of the landfall of Paeng, and yet we're encountering quite staggering numbers here as to its impact. How prepared were disaster officials and the government in general for the onslaught of Paeng?
I would say we were prepared, because days before we have conducted our pre-disaster risk assessment, wherein, as I've said, we have determined 16 out of 17 regions is at high risk. And then we have issued warnings to the different agencies, including LGUs. And our challenge really is how these warnings will be translated or are translated into actions, wherein there will be a preemptive evacuation and then placement of people in a safe area. But based on what we have, around 105,000 persons were preemptively evacuated in regions 2, Region 1, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and unfortunately it does not show there were preemptive evacuation in BARM. So I think that is where we have to improve on our strategy, and DILG is with us on this, that we have to review, re-examine how we issue warnings and make sure that the operations listo manual of the DILG are followed by all local government units because this will help them in a way ensuring an efficient and effective response or preparedness, no, if you say during any impending typhoons.
Okay, and then lastly, Queenie just entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility. How are you preparing for this, and how do you balance that with management of damage brought about by Paeng?
Yes, 2 days ago we have already included in our monitoring Queenie, even if it's not still if it is not in our PAR yet. To us, and as we speak, we are preparing, restocking again our resources, our food and non-food items, and we are strategizing again, no, given that a big one like Paeng has just affected us, and then Northern Luzon was affected by 3 other typhoons. So we just need to follow our protocols. We have our manuals, and of course, we still have resources that we will be using. And of course, based on what is available, there are still resources from the armed forces, from the Philippine Coast Guard, Bureau of Fire, and PNP that are on standby and that will be used, no, when an emergency is called for this Queenie.
All right, thank you very much for your time today. Hope everything goes well, at least for the for your assessment, or at least for your management of the destruction caused by Typhoon Paeng. Thank you very much for your time again. Assistant Secretary Rafi Alejandro of the NDRRMC. Now let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. There are now 2 weather disturbances inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility: Tropical Storm Paeng and Tropical Depression Queenie. More of that and other stories when Business World Live returns. Stay with us. Claire, good morning. Jess here from the studio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Good
All right,
morning.
good. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Yes.
As of this morning, Tropical Storm Paeng was spotted moving towards the northwestern edge of the Philippine Area of Responsibility. Pag-asa estimates the center of Paeng at 320 kilometers west-northwest of Iba, Zambales. It's packing maximum sustained winds of 85 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 105 kilometers per hour. Paeng is currently moving west-northwestward at 10 kilometers per hour. It is forecast to exit PAR this afternoon or evening. But Pag-asa says re-intensification into a severe tropical storm category remains likely within 12 to 24 hours. As of 5 a.m., the following areas remain under signal number 1. Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Apayao, Kalinga, Abra, Mountain Province, Ifugao, Benguet, Nueva Vizcaya, and the western portion of Cagayan. Also under signal number 1 are portions of Nueva Ecija, the western portion of Isabela, as well as Pampanga, Bataan, Tarlac, Zambales, and the western portion of Bulacan. Meanwhile, as of 5 a.m., the center of the tropical depression spotted near Palau has entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility and was named Queenie. Pag-asa says the weather system is unlikely to directly affect the country until Tuesday. In other news, analysts believe inflation likely quickened beyond 7% in October. That's according to a Businessworld poll. The survey of 14 analysts yielded a median CPI of 7.2% for this month. If realized, October inflation would be faster than the 6.9% logged in September. It will also be the quickest pace in over 14 years since the inflation hit 7.8% in December 2008. Analysts note that food prices could have driven October inflation amid supply shortages caused by recent typhoons. The weaker peso is also seen to have contributed to faster inflation, with importation made more expensive. Analysts see inflation peaking in October or November and gradually decelerate going into 2023. However, experts say it is still a long way from falling into the Bangko Sentral's target of 2 to 4% for this year. Now, should we be gearing up for more price pressures in the coming months, especially after Paeng's onslaught? Let's get answers from Trade Assistant Secretary Anne-Claire Cabuchan. Claire, good day. Thank you for joining us. Have you started monitoring prices due to Typhoon Paeng?
Yes, good morning, sir. And as far as DTI is concerned, the monitoring of prices is a regular activity. And with the recent onslaught of Paeng, it has been intensified. But for the areas which were heavily affected, of course, you may note that the people in DTI, they're also affected by the calamity. So what we usually do is to bring in personnel from other adjacent provinces which were not so affected.
Okay, but should we be gearing up for possible price increases here?
Once there is a declaration of a state of calamity, I listened to this segment earlier. There is no declaration as of now of a national state of calamity, but there are localized declarations. So in those three areas right now, there is already a price freeze of basic necessities, and that goes on for a period of 60 days until sooner lifted by the president himself. So for those areas where there is a state of calamity, basic necessities have already been frozen. So there should be no increases, and that is also the reason why when there is a calamity like this, we have to intensify our monitoring to ensure that there is no illegal price manipulation as well as no hoarding of these much needed products.
Okay, when you say basic necessities, which goods are covered here?
Under DTI's purview, because we have the Price Act, that's Republic Act 7581, it would be canned sardines, canned fish, noodles, coffee, candles, bread, that is Pinoy Tasty and Pinay Pandesal, bottled water. But there are other agencies of government that also have basic necessities, like the Department of Agriculture, like for fresh meat, for eggs. That's under the Department of Agriculture. For the Department of Health, it would be medicines and other medical supplies.
Now, like what you mentioned, go ahead, ma'am. You were saying
of energy, the LPG. Yes. So I'm sorry for the Department of Energy. They also look at the prices of gasoline in affected areas when there is a state of calamity.
Okay, like what you mentioned earlier, the declaration of a national state of calamity is still pending, but once given the go signal, again, that would put a price freeze on basic necessities. How exactly does that work, even for those areas which are deemed somewhat not really that heavily affected or impacted by the typhoon?
For all areas that are under a state of calamity, all the prices of these basic necessities are frozen at their prevailing prices, which should be the suggested retail price of these goods or lower, because there are instances but they are when they are lower but never beyond or above SRP. So if you recall, there was a national state of emergency due to COVID, which
Yes.
was declared. There was no disaster at the time, but we had a 60-day price freeze for all these products.
Okay, your audio is coming in and out here. Line's getting a bit of a choppy, but we'll try to extend this interview since we still have more information we want to get from you here. Now, again, the latest report that we had, inflation is pegged at 7.2% in October. How much of an increase in prices did you see over the past month, and which products as well had noticeable increases?
What we do in DTI is we monitor prices that are goods. Of course, there are stock-keeping units in groceries and supermarkets. We look at there's only those products in our SRP bulletin. So in our SRP bulletin, even if with increases in logistics, in prices of oil, or even packaging, there are no increases in our groceries and supermarkets, because the commitment there really, and this is something that is provided for under the Price Act, is that the products can be sold only at SRP or lower than SRP. So when there are petitions for adjustment of those prices, those petitions are studied very carefully by the DTI, but they do not become effective until such time that they are published in an SRP bulletin.
And lastly, very quickly now, do you have any more pending application for price increases?
Yes, we have pending applications for price increases, and our message has always been that we are in active coordination with the manufacturers of these products.
Which
and
goods,
we are
ma'am?
studying these petitions very carefully. Yes.
Which goods?
So we have petitions for canned meat, for instance. For canned meat, note that commodity. So in case of a price freeze, they are not included because they are not basic, but they are prime. But we have petitions for canned sardines, for instance, for milk, for coffee, and for bread, which is, of course, part of our basic necessities.
All right. Thank you very much for those updates. Again, DTI Assistant Secretary Anne-Claire Cabachan. Now, let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. Typhoon Paeng leaves a trail of destruction in Maguindanao. We'll give you the latest on the ground when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us. And you're still watching Business World Live here on One News. Tropical Storm Paeng left a trail of destruction in the Maguindanao provinces, giving us the latest on the situation on the ground. We have with us Mon Gualvez, who's joining us live from UPI, Maguindanao del Norte. Mon, what's the latest?
Jes, Maguindanao is naturally a flood-prone area. Residents here are actually accustomed to flooding. They say they are not used to a disaster of this magnitude. This aerial video by the Philippine Coast Guard shows the extent of the damage brought by severe tropical storm Paeng in the town of Dato Dinsinsuat in Maguindanao del Norte. The PCG conducted the aerial survey as it delivers relief supplies to affected families in that region. Retrieval efforts are meanwhile ongoing in Barangay Cusyong, where a big landslide happened in one of the sitios. As of 6 a.m. today, more than 30 bodies have already been retrieved from the site. Identified as evacuees, is prone to tsunamis and storm surges. Some survivors are now staying in evacuation centers from nearby barangays. Evacuation centers because their funds remain with Maguindanao del Sur following the plebiscite last September. This relocation area is one of the engineers. At the moment, evacuees are most in need of food, water, shelter, and clothing. Dato Blassuwat, an area was isolated after their bridges connecting to the town collapsed or actually got damaged, and because of this, it is hard to deliver relief goods and other assistance to residents in that area.
All right, thank you very much for those updates. Mon Gualvez reporting live from Maguindanao. Now, to give us more updates on how their provinces are handling Paeng's devastation, we will talk via phone to Attorney Cyrus Torreña, Provincial Administrator of Maguindanao. Attorney Cyrus, good day. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we're having a bit of a difficulty here trying to reach Attorney Cyrus, but we'll try to get to him as soon as possible. Again, you have there Mon Gualvez reporting some scenarios there over at Maguindanao, with some areas still isolated due to the destruction brought about by Typhoon Paeng, destroying some bridges connecting some towns to the city center. At the same time, we do have reports as well of some evacuation centers, in fact, being affected as well by the landslide. Now we have Attorney Cyrus Torreña of the Provincial Administrator of Maguindanao now on the line. Attorney, good day. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good day. Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Thank you for calling up.
And thank you for joining us. Do we have any updates on those isolated areas in Maguindanao?
Technically, we still have problems with the road. The national highway coming from Cotabato City is not passable going to General Santos City because the bridge is totally damaged. All other areas are the bridges that having damage are those in the inner portion.
So what's going to be the game plan here?
We continuously give food packs until today, and this morning the NPLG and the DND, we expected them to be with us this morning for a conference. We're going to give them update as to the relief operations undertaken by the province of Maguindanao.
Okay. Also, quite alarming here, a story, of course, this came out still over the weekend during the thick of the typhoon. You have an evacuation center in Barangay Cusyong, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. That also was damaged due to landslides here. How did that come about, and why evacuate people there in the first place?
Actually, the problem is not directly with Paeng. The landslide and the flash flood happened before the landfall of Paeng.
Okay.
Before that, we were already advised that our province is under the yellow category of the DOST Pagasa. Then the yellow, it became orange, and during the landfall of Paeng, it became red. A week before that, there were already a lot of every night heavy rain. That for me, even if I am not a technical person, I believe it contributed to the problem because the absorption capacity of the land of the area is not anymore that in that would be to absorb all the rainfall coming from on that day.
Mhm. And then, are you having some difficulties here with the funding for evacuation centers, especially after that plebiscite, in the separation of Maguindanao del Norte and Maguindanao del Sur?
Yeah, since August, we were already under the state of calamity, and the calamity funds were already being depleted. But there are a lot of NGOs and GOs who send their respective assistance for us, especially the office of Senator Bongo, the Vice President, and DSWD Region Camp. Even the city government of Davao already sent their respective assistance for us.
And then lastly, are you anticipating more casualties here?
We look forward for that, but of course we still have the hope that there will be some additional casualties. Third, the conference program and professors, I need to them.
All right, again, thank you very much for those updates. Ingat po kayo dyan. Again, Attorney Cyrus Torrena, Provincial Administrator of Maguindanao. And that's it for today, October 31st, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.